Red Heat is now on bloody Netflix after I paid £5 for it.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. Oh, Arnie always wins.
That's so funny.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar with me, James Smith.
Me, Neil Brock.
And me, James Eatock.
It's a movie podcast.
We can do characters that fly and shoot laser beams and do woo.
Beneath all of that, it's all about friendship.
Playing the drums until his hands are bleeding.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each head off and watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone, then waffle about it for your listening pleasure.
Furthermore, if you want to join in and suggest a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Off Radar Podcast or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share and review. It really helps getting the pod out there. For now, strap in, turn the volume up and let's go Off Radar.
I think you need to turn off Eatock's camera already.
Here we are again for another episode of Off Radar. Joining me, as always, James Eatock.
Hello.
I'll edit that. Pause.
Oh!
And Neil.
Hello, it's me. I'm really quick when I say my name. Hi, everyone.
We call him Nige. Today we are discussing Witness, which is 1985, directed by Peter Weir, starring Harrison Ford. And I picked this film because I hadn't seen it and I saw it pop up on the telly and I was like, that's an easy pick. And have you guys seen this?
I have now, but I'd never seen it. Have you guys... Oh, sorry, that's your question, Smith. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Let's keep repeating the same question back to each other.
So, wait a minute. Have you guys seen this? I have actually seen this before.
So I've seen it now.
Right, okay.
I had seen this in the past. I saw this when it was on BBC One back in the mid-90s.
Okay.
In the 90s. Okay, so you haven't seen it for a long time. Okay, so Nige had seen this film and me and Eatock had not seen it until now. Now we've gone away and watched it, which is the whole idea of the podcast, and now we're going to chat about it and review it. So, to be honest, for me, there was a whole host of Harrison Ford films that I just have really passed me by, and this is one of them. So Nige is probably going to be quite disappointed, but I still haven't seen Frantic, haven't seen The Mosquito Coast, haven't seen Patriot
also
Games.
Directed by Peter Weir, Mosquito Coast as well.
There you go.
I've never even heard of The Mosquito Coast.
It's got Helen Mirren in as well.
It's in the jungle or something like
that. They're like a family that wants to escape from
mosquitoes.
No, that's where they go to. Unfortunately,
okay.
they're trying to escape from modern life. They're paranoid the world I think is going to end, or there's going to be a nuclear attack or something like that. So Harrison Ford, his wife, and his kids go away to the Mosquito Coast. That's the gist, anyway. But that's for another podcast. So let's move on.
Oh, there you go. And I hadn't seen Work and Go either, so there were quite a few of that era that are just totally passed me by. So I was quite keen to tick them off, and Witness being one of them. So there's a little boy in some toilets and a cop gets killed and the boy witnesses this murder.
Hence the title.
Witness. And we don't really know what's going on in that front. Harrison Ford plays a character called John Book.
It's a great name, by the way.
It's a brilliant name for a detective.
Detective.
Especially within the context of the film as well. The whole, John Book. It sounds like a very religious name.
Yeah, you're after case John. It's very detective name. And anyway, so he's kind of been brought in to kind of, look into this case, and he kind of uncovers this whole kind of police corruption. When the boy witnesses this murder in the toilet, he does this Indiana Jones
escape
roll under the toilet and gets the hat. And I was like, I wonder if that was a nod to Indy. Because obviously this came after Indy, and that was the first thing I thought when I watched that. I was he's just gone back for the hat. I was waiting for the temple to come down.
Yeah.
John Book they figure out that he's obviously involved. He knows too much, so he has to kind of go into hiding. And the most obvious place in hiding is to go into this Amish community.
Something you should mention at this point as well is that the small Amish boy has an attractive mother played by Top Gun's Kelly McGillis, which may be another reason why John Book's thinking, let's go and hang out with some Amish people.
Well, no, you're very right, which isn't obvious at the beginning. You see the mum and the kid, they go into a railway station, and they're almost seen as a different species to people, like it's a really alien world, and the way people are kind of treating them is it's just wrong, and you see the kind of discrimination right from the off, which was really interesting kind of dynamic, them going into the kind of big city where the boy had never been and he really wanted to go.
Don't go far, Samuel.
And then all of a sudden, like, the whole film gets flipped, where Harrison Ford's character has to go and live in that community, and it has a lot of layers to it. So it's obviously a bit of a fish out of water film.
That's what I wrote as well. I wrote the same thing. I wrote fish out of water.
Did you?
Yeah, because,
yeah. That's what I was also going to say. So we're clearly all big fishermen here.
Then you have, to begin with, what I thought was the friendship and the kind of him and the boy. I thought it was all going to be about him and the boy, but as you kind of just said, Nige, like, the romance comes in with Kelly McGillis, and that layer kind of gets added in. Then you get this whole cop corruption, which, to be honest, I could take or leave. That was
Danny Glover.
As in, I didn't really understand why they were killing each other. Like, it wasn't really explained, like, unless I just missed it.
Yeah, it was a Danny Glover and his agents, I guess, had been involved in a drug bust, and I think that's right. And then basically those drugs had not been either categorized or shown up at the, under the jurisdiction of the law, so therefore, they'd corruptly, I guess, sold them on or something for profit. So Harrison Ford is like, it's Donny Glover, it's Danny Glover, he's the baddie, and he tells his boss, and straight away. And this isn't like, I don't think it's a detriment to the movie, but the boss is like, yeah, we'll make sure. Yeah, well, who else knows? And he's like, just you and me, sir. And he's like, well, we'll sort it out then.
Most of the film it's mainly about him, her, and then I think
there's also the old Amish dude as well, though, isn't there? Who's kind of like tries to keep everyone on the straight and narrow, and everyone sort of keeping to who they're supposed to be. He doesn't really want John Book to be there, because he's like, as you said, he's this fish out of his water. He brings all these bad influences, guns and violence and all those things. You've got Kelly McGillis, who's like, she's obviously been Amish for a long time, and she's a sort of person that wants more from the world, perhaps, and she's sort of getting these things revealed to her. And then you've got the boy, who's obviously the most easily influenced of them all.
I've done nothing against the rule of the Ordnance.
Nothing? You bring this man to our house with his gun of the hand. You bring fear to this house. Fear of English, with guns coming after.
I've committed no sin.
It is, that glimpse into their society is really interesting. So we see the good and the bad, we see the kind of the nice community spirit. We see them all kind of rallying together. But then we also see some of the bad as well, like, shows men doing all the woodwork and the women knitting and making the tea. It definitely showcases all of that, and it shows him almost fitting into that, kind of making peace with it, respecting other people's opinions, communities, which we can all learn a lot about these days, which, like a lot of messaging going on.
But yeah, you're right in the sense, like at the start especially, like they don't want him there at all. Like I mentioned the old guy, but there's an Amish guy who's got the hots for Kelly McGillis' character. You've got a very young looking Viggo Mortensen randomly being an Amish guy as well, which is amazing.
Is that him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Like in it. Yeah, he's one of the Amish guys, and then you've got this whole community, and it's about Harrison Ford has to kind of prove himself, not only to be like, they know he's a detective. I can't remember. Did they actually know he's a detective outside of the immediate family? Actually. They must do, because why would he be there? I think they introduced him as like a random cousin or something ridiculous like that from like a different set of Amish, a different Amish community. But But yeah, I mean, there's an absolutely iconic scene, and this is probably one of the most referenced scenes from the film, is the building of the barn, and like how he kind of gets stuck into that. And again, it's kind of a little nudge or nod towards Harrison Ford's former career as a carpenter. Before he did Star Wars, he was a carpenter, and he helps them build this barn. And there's like an incredible score to that scene as well, and it's everyone kind of rallying together.
It's a great scene. It's almost like I wrote down, it's almost like a Rocky montage where it's like they're all building this scene. You're seeing Harrison Ford become more and more engrossed in the community, and people going, even Daniel, the blonde guy who's got the hots for Kelly McGillis, he sort of like, he shares his lemonade with him in that bit, and he's like, oh yeah, that lemonade tastes fine. And you know, I
kind of wrote it down as ants working together to like, you know, like create this. Like, and it's not just the building, is it? It's them, it's the community.
Oh,
like you just said, like the fact that he's so ingrained in it. Like, there's a scene where, like, he has like a load of like horrible people start picking on.
That's it.
Like,
yeah.
Man, or what? Yeah, that's right. No fighting. They won't fight for their country either.
It's not our way.
But it's my way.
No!
Look.
You're making a mistake.
Hey.
Boo.
And you're just like, yes, when you watch it, like, yes, because the guy's an absolute dick, and he's like rubbing ice cream in their faces and knocking off their hats and being like, you can't do anything.
Never seen anything like it in all my years. He's from Ohio.
Favourite scene, I think, of the movie is when, and you know it's kind of coming, like we don't know Danny Glover's involvement at first. We're like, oh, he's just some bloke who murdered, and the kid is walking around the police station, like, just, you know, and everybody's like, oh, it's such a great scene. He's like, oh, and they're like, and the woman detective's like, oh, come over here, and he kind of comes over, and he's all like nervous, and he's just looking around, and you're thinking to yourself, if I was writing this movie or directing this movie, this is where he bumps into Danny Glover. But he does it in the best way, because he's looking at the trophy cabinet, looks through and sees a newspaper cutting of Danny Glover. It says, like, appearing in Lethal Weapon 1. No, but he's like looking at Danny Glover. But it's that moment is fantastic, because they remove all the dialogue from the police office, from the station. So it's just him, and there's that kind of weird, eerie sound, and he's just looking, and he turns to, I nearly said he turns to Indy. He turns to Harrison Ford, who's on the phone. Harrison Ford kind of drops the phone, because he knows in that moment the kid has seen the dude responsible.
Yeah.
And what I love about this, though, that part in the movie, is that how many movies have we seen before where the victim points to a corrupt cop, and then Harrison Ford's character, or whoever in that role, would be like, you can't say that. He's one of our best cops. He would never do this. Right away, Harrison Ford's like, this kid ain't going to lie. And just immediately like, oh, are you sure it could be Danny Glover? You know, it's just, I love the idea that there's just that instant bond between them, which is like, I believe you 100%. Now we got to try and sort this out. Going back to just carrying on to the whole fish out of water thing, what this movie kind of was just so unexpected, because I thought you read like the premise for some of these movies or synopses, and it's you know, boy witnesses a murder, Harrison Ford protects him, something like that, and you're like, oh yeah, I think this film's he's going to be on the run constantly, like shooting at baddies. Let's be honest, like 80% of the movie is just Harrison Ford in that fish out of water. We're going to keep saying the phrase fish out of water, to the point where they should have called the movie Fish Out of Water. But it is a fish called Harrison Ford. But it's so, but that's what I think the beautiful part of the movie is that it's not about the whole corrupt cop system. It's about this guy becoming a part of this community and learning that, and them also learning from him in a way. Obviously, they don't believe in a lot of his stuff, but they're understanding who he is, and that bond between him and Kelly McGillis, I think, is really believable, because it's not that annoying kind of cliche of she finds him repulsive and then there's just a suddenly momentarily lapse and they're kissing. It builds to that moment. And you see a classic bit of 80s nudity as well. I thought it was just so perfectly 80s, where she's like she's washing herself and she turns around, he's just stood in the doorway.
He's just like creeping.
Like, oh, pretty woman. Well, it's Harrison Ford, so you know.
You want to see my life?
Well, she can say to him like, well, you know, what are you doing? And Harrison Ford just like do his usual.
Yeah, he plays it so kind of downbeat, doesn't he?
But
one of the scenes I really liked was the kind of the cat and mouse scene at the end where they're chasing around the kind of barn and stuff, and
the seeds.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, incredible.
It was kind of ridiculous, really. Like with all the wheat or whatever it was, like basically drowning the guy.
Oh man, I just thought if this was an Arnie film, you said it was. I thought it was corn, but you're saying it's wheat. All that wheat crushed him. If it was Arnie would have just gone, wait a minute, and then just like as the guy dies.
Yes.
You go against the grain.
Oh, nice one.
Like, I just want to make a couple of quick points. Like, it was a film of firsts in some respects because Peter Weir is an Australian director. He'd done like Hanging at Picnic Rock, or I think it's called, and did Gallipoli with Mel Gibson as well. It's his first American film. For Harrison Ford, something that's quite interesting for him. It's the only film he's ever been nominated for an Oscar for a start, which is extremely surprising. But also, it's his first film that he ever did that wasn't either like a fantasy or kind of action adventure. So it was the first non-Star Wars Indiana Jones film that he really ever did. It was his first like leading role, seemingly. So that was kind of like his breakthrough to like, can he carry a picture by himself? Yes, he can. And then him and Peter Weir got on so well making this. The next film that Peter Weir did was The Mosquito Coast with Harrison Ford as well. But yeah, it really gave him like that sort of credit in the bank that he could be something more than just like your sort of action adventure star. Albeit, to be fair, a lot of his films outside of that kind of area maybe haven't held up quite as well. Like some of the ones you mentioned are good, maybe not fantastic. He's not always the lead in them. Like in Working Girl, I wouldn't necessarily call him the lead in that. But yeah, it's just interesting that kind of this was kind of his like breakthrough role outside of Star Wars and indie, I suppose. And as you said, it's not that kind of classic action. It's more character driven. Like I think Kelly McGillis is like really stands up in it well. She's really good. The kid, the old guy, the Amish community, it all works together like really well. And sort of I remember, as I said, when I watched it years ago, kind of thing, when I was a kid, it was like, Harrison Ford film. You kind of expect that kind of action and everything else. But I just really enjoyed it for what it was. So
I think I discovered the best alternate movie poster for that film, because you look at the poster and it's just like, there's Harrison Ford's head, there's the young kid, there's like a McGillis, and there's kind of an Amish field, as it were. But one of the best shots in it is the I guess you'd call it the third act, is when the cops are walking towards the village, and you've got this hill and the car in front of them. They're walking, all three of them, like two of them got shotguns in their hands, walking down the hill, and the Amish village is in the distance. It's such a cool shot. It's like, if anybody watches the film, go and look at that scene as the cops descend upon the village, because it just looks like, that's a poster right there. These just three guys, backs to camera, walking towards us. Yeah, that would be a great thing for like Witness. Just that would be the poster, I think. That's my graphic designer's take on it.
Well, Peter Weir as well, just to sort of give a bit of context to who he is, did Dead Poets Society as well, did Green Card, a couple of sort of classic 80s, 90s films. Did The Truman Show, which we've talked about before on this podcast, and also Master and Commander with Russell Crowe. And The Way Back, which I really enjoyed with Colin Farrell. That's the last film we did in 2010. But I just wanted to go on to another quick point. One of the reasons why I do enjoy this film is because it was such a heavy influence for this film in another film that I really, really enjoy called Kingpin by the Farrelly brothers. So this is a ridiculous films with like Woody Harrelson and I can't even remember, Bill Murray's in it as well, about bowling. And as part of the film, he meets an Amish family, and during that, they're doing the scene is in it, the building of the barn. And you've got Woody Harrelson's character who's just like pushing things over and drinking, eating when before they ring the bell, and it's just like a complete piss take. And so much of Witness is kind of riffed in Kingpin. So if you've seen one, go watch the other, and it's just like it's so beautiful, and it's really, really great, and like. It's another reason why I've just really enjoyed this film, because whilst it's like really serious, really enjoyable for like being this straight up thing, it also so heavily influenced a really, really funny film as well, like that came out 10 years later.
Ratings, yeah. Okay, so I'll kick off. I'm going to give it a 7. I think a solid 7. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I'd watch it again. Harrison Ford was excellent in it. I like one last thing. I like the fact that Danny Glover isn't in it too much, so that they don't kind of make it into like the comedy. They do have moments of comedy in Witness, like where in the car park he's in a shootout and the woman comes out the lift and he's like, get back in the lift, and she's like, that's my car. And like I was like, oh god, are they gonna, and is it gonna become too hammy? But it doesn't. As soon as he's in that Amish community, it's almost like a different film, which is really clever. Anyway, so the fact that Danny Glover doesn't feature much is probably a good thing. But yeah, overall,
sounds really harsh.
Yeah, that is harsh, but for that film, you know what I mean.
Yes.
But a solid 7 from me. 7. Nige, what do you reckon?
I think partly because of like the nostalgia, the fact that I sort of grew up, I've seen it so many times, and I do enjoy it. I'm gonna. It's sort of very close to like 7.5. I'm going to go 8 because I don't do halves. So yeah, I just think it showcases Harrison Ford really well. I think it's like your classic example. It's fairly simplistic script, but it just works together really well. The score is really great. It's really well directed. It's enjoyable. I think it's better than like a Sunday movie type thing in the sense of I think it's some aspects of it haven't aged that well. Like there's a bit when the guy gets done over in like the bathroom, you see his throat slit, you can like see the blood being squirted off the knife, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a really good film. So 8 for me.
Very good. E-Talk.
Yeah, like you, Smith, I'd say 7. I really enjoyed this. I went in. I think if it had been the movie I was expecting, which is man, cop and boy on the run, I think it would just be like, yeah. But I think the fact that it kind of takes this Amish detour is what that's a thing.
Should.
As all films, like Ghostbusters would be the best film ever if it had taken an Amish detour. Yeah, but
the old Amish detour,
the old Amish detour, script writing classic 101 there. Yeah, 7 for me. I think it's a surprisingly good movie.
Good shouts. And look, if you want to give us your rating, why don't you email us on offradarpod@gmail.com or tweet us at offradarpodcast. Let us know what you think, because these are just opinions. You might hate it. So let us know what you think about any of the films. And if you've got a film that you want to suggest, get in touch as well, and we will go away, watch it, and chat about it like we just did.
Chatty.
Also, give us your favourite Amish films.
Top 5 Amish films. That'll be the next one.
Go.
Kingpin, Witness. They're the only ones I can think of.
Well, there you go. That was Witness, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the film. And as I say, let us know what you thought of it. Next week, we are reviewing JCVD, a 2008 film starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. So watch that before next week and let us know what you think of it. And we are going to give our honest opinions about that next time. Also, please share, subscribe and review. It honestly helps getting the pod out there and keeps us doing what we love doing, and that is chatting absolute bollocks to you. So anyway, until next time, we'll speak to you next time on Off Radar.